Okay, so hello everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar, which is presenting the most recent publication on good practices in the global apparel industry. You may have been present during our last webinar 2 weeks ago, which focused on the first 3 chapters of this publication. And today we will look at the last 2 chapters of the book. So welcome back to our loyal audience who was with us last time, and welcome to the newcomers. So very quick words on who we are. ITC, for those of you who don't know, ITC is the joint agency of the WTO and the UN. We work with SMEs across the world and we help them to better trade and export. So our mandate is really about trade promotion and export development on numerous value chains. But what we are interested in today is textile and apparel. So my name is Delphine. As you can see, I work for the team in charge of textiles, fibers, also and clothing apparel. Our main project, maybe you heard of it, is GTEX Minatex. It's implemented in North Africa, Central Asia. It's a program which aims to encourage exports of textiles and clothing from developing countries to promote employment and income generation throughout the value chain. It's funded by the governments of Sweden and Switzerland. So we would like to, of course, thank our donors today for their support and for enabling these kind of events to happen. The publication, so coming back to the publication on good practices, it's available on the ITC website. Also, it's available on our Global Textile Academy platform. Don't worry, you will have the links to access the publication and to also access the recordings of the webinars and the presentations. So this publication provides insights on ways for SMEs to move up the value chain and move away from low value contract manufacturing. Most importantly, it's about real life case studies on how these good practices have been put into action and the resulting benefits. So it's really today, this publication and today's interaction, it's really about peer-to-peer learning. It's about you, about the industry, peers, colleagues, stakeholders, really talking to each other and sharing, with each other. Some quick housekeeping rules. As you can see, translation is provided in 4 languages: English, French, Arabic, and Russian. Let me also thank the translators for their excellent and very hard job. And I'm actually reminding myself, and also let me remind the panelists to try to speak slowly, even though it's not always easy, but speak slowly so the translators can do their job. So there will be a Q&A session after each panel. If you want to ask questions, of course, you are welcome to do so. You have 2 options. Either you write your question in the Q&A section and we'll pick it up at one point, or you can also raise your hand and we'll try to see it and invite you to speak. There is also a chat. You can click on the button, but the chat is only for networking or for parallel discussions if you wish so. So regarding today's webinar, we have some great speakers, but before we kickstart the first panel, we'd like to give the floor to Mr. Rajesh Bheda, who has been by ITC side for a while now. He's almost part of the family. So he's a renowned garment industry specialist, and he's also the author of this publication. So over to you, Rajesh, to talk a bit more about the publication, the topics, and about the speakers and what's up next in today's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Delphine, for the warm introduction and warm welcome. It is great to be working with you. And I would like to say hello, bonjour, salam, uh, dobro utro to our friends in Central Asia. It's great to be with you again. And as Delphine said, that we have the second webinar after the first successful webinar, which was held for the release of this publication. And before we start about the details of the publication, I would really like to thank all the professionals from different parts of the world for contributing good practices from their own organizations so that colleagues across the globe can learn from their experiences. So that really needs to be appreciated. We're thankful to you. This publication was done in tough times of COVID. And again, thank you for your contribution. And the idea of this publication came up about 3 years ago when we were in Madagascar and Matthias and myself were speaking, what can we do to help the SMEs? And we thought that publication with real life case studies would really help people to relate to experiences of each other and see how they can implement some of these good practices. So it is produced in the spirit of sharing and caring. And we're really happy that the publication is now ready, available for people to listen to. Mariana, if you can have the slides, then we can move further in the publication. Yeah, the next slide, please. So as Delphine said, that the publication is divided into 5 chapters. And the first chapter deals with design development as well as design and product development. And I've got some interesting case studies in terms of what is the value of design in value addition, technologies like e-fit simulation, opportunities for fabric savings. It also deals with the concept related to responsive merchandising and the complete kit, which are very important so that your fabrics and materials arrive on time. And as a result, you can improve your manufacturing performance. And as time goes, as we progress, I'll talk about some of these things. In the second chapter, in the next slide, please, we talked about the manufacturing area and quality management. Interesting case studies here talking about lean management practices of a single minute exchange of dyes, or opportunities for de-skilling of work practices, method study, problem-solving techniques, and its contribution for quality improvement, a concept of zero defect operator, or ideas like Pokayoke for improving safety, and visual management. So again, a chapter rich with good practices and supporting case studies. In the third chapter, we have dealt with the area of social and environmental responsibility, which is, of course, a very important topic for all of us, as well as the human beings. And this has good practices on the how do you go about worker welfare, worker engagement, the importance of social dialogue, and business benefits of that was covered. We had sustainability good practices from Bangladesh, from India, other places. We also had some good practices on community engagement, and especially an interesting case from Jordan about training and capacity building of Syrian refugees and creating job opportunities for them. So what a variety of interesting cases there. That brings us to chapter number 4. And this is about branding and marketing. And this chapter we're going to deal with today. We have case studies on branding. We have an interesting case, and that will be discussed on how to go about what are the opportunities for direct-to-consumer, developing direct-to-consumer brand. We also covered innovative business models and how organizations can respond to crisis, because we have experienced one of the most challenging crises, but certain organizations have been able to manage or remodel their business quite well. And there's some very good case studies on that for small businesses, non-profit as well as for profit. Product innovation is also talked about in this section. And in the next slide, the last chapter deals with the institutional good practices. Institutional good practices, and basically the industry members or the members of the industry in any country depend a lot with the support of industry institutions, which could be industry associations, which can be training institutions, which could be financing institutions, government bodies, trade promotion bureaus, and their effective management can really help the enterprises in conducting their business in a much better fashion. And we are very happy that we have here case studies, none other than BGMEA, talking about their experience of how they have evolved as an association and of a second largest apparel exporting country. Some insights we'll be able to hear from Farooq Khan, president of BGMEA today. We have a case study from JAP Sri Lanka about sector level branding and sector promotion. We have also interesting case study from OGTC, which is about cluster development and how the members of the clusters can benefit from each other. So, and also we have an interesting case study from how the training institutions, the academic institutions, and the industry members work together in a collaborative manner, so that the industry gets the kind of human resource it needs. But not only human resource, research can be carried out, consulting services can be carried out. So this is how the publication is divided into 5 chapters. Last webinar, we had very interesting discussions, and we have presentations, especially around sustainability from Aditya Birla Group. And we got insights into how Aditya Birla Group, especially their fashion retail division, has been able to integrate a holistic approach to sustainability into their business, and how they've been able to maintain a status of most sustainable textiles and clothing retail, fashion retail, and luxury goods company in Asia for the last 3 years. A lot of useful insights, starting from shop floor up to the entire product cycle management. We had interesting case study from DBL Group, which talked about worker welfare, their Bandhan shops, where the workers have access to essential items that are subsidized price, medical help for the workers and their families, and also supervisory development program for women. How they have been able to successfully implement that program in the organization was really insightful. We had a case on social dialogue, talking about experiment or work being done in Vietnam, and the business benefits of social dialogue very clearly came out. In the pre-production area, Mr. Venkinagan, former CEO of Asmara, really talked about the need for investing into design. And he emphasized that the global buyers are really looking at factories being able to offer original designs and also willing to reward the suppliers for them. He also talked about the importance of pre-production and giving example of flight dispatchers. He said that the pre-production people are like flight dispatchers. They ensure that the rest of the production goes very smooth. Importance of fabric saving was talked about. And also we had cases by my colleague and myself talking about manufacturing, especially skills development, methods improvement, and quality management. So that is kind of an overview of last webinar. We had very detailed and intense discussion. Participants asked a lot of questions, and the speakers were more than happy to respond to that. So with that background, we come to today's session, and we open our first webinar. And I would request Delphine to introduce our panelists. And we are happy that both of them are practitioners, and we'll be able to hear from them their first-hand experiences of looking at value addition opportunities and creating brands.
Thank you, Rajesh. So if we could have this slide presenting the first panel. Great, thank you. So we'll talk about branding and marketing practices at the enterprise level. And the first speaker will be Mr. Roshan Baid. Roshan Baid is the managing director of Paragon Apparel, and he has great experience in running this company, which is India's largest integrated sportswear manufacturing company. They launched recently in 2017 the global Indian sportswear brand Alsis, So he will share with us this fantastic experience. And then we'll hear Miss Shreya Singh. So Shreya is a brand architect. Her job is to build new age business models with deep understanding of financial modeling, fashion startups, exports, D2C, consumer tech, and valuation. So we'll hear also about her experience. So over to Mr. Bade.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Roshan. Uh, I hope my voice is audible to everyone.
All good, Roshan.
So just to give a background on ourselves, if we can have the introductions right. Yeah. We have been a manufacturer of sportswear apparel for the last 20 years, and we have been manufacturing for all global brands in the world, sportswear. And in 2017, as a value addition for ourselves and the vision we had for Paragon Apparel was we wanted to go up the value chain, and we started our own brand by the name of Alsys. So apparel manufacturing is a challenging business, and apparel brands and retailers have a lot of expectations from their manufacturing partners or suppliers. But again, when we to elaborate on this, when the other part is uh, we continuously face competitions in terms of prices, in terms of labor from different geographical regions, different countries. So it becomes a continuous challenge to compete, to supply to the world retailers in the Western countries, and to create substantial value for ourselves. So it was very necessary that we look at opportunities where a further value can be added by just not being a contract manufacturer. We could, being in India, we are very strong in designs. So a basic proposition to add value to our manufacturing was launching a brand of our own. So this is where it came from. And by launching our brand, we up the value chain and we utilize the strengths of our manufacturing facilities, existing manufacturing facilities. Next. So there are some preconditions when you want to launch your own brand. So uh, it's a different ball game altogether. When you're manufacturing, you get an order, you make the shipment, and to buyer's quality expectation, you ship out the shipment, and most of your responsibilities end there unless you have shipped out a bad product and they come back to you. So, but manufacturing is only that much. When you go in for branding, which is when you are adding more value to whatever manufacturing you're doing, so you need a strong product design development team. Most of the manufacturers already have it. As Dr. Bheda was saying that last time, the person from Asmara was saying that you need a huge design and development team. So if you have a design and development team, well and good. But yes, to launch a brand, you definitely need a good proactive design and development team. The second point is you need to be willing to slog it out with a brand. It's not that you launched it today and tomorrow everybody is vying for it. It is a long process where you have to keep investing in the brand, keep investing in the brand building process, and there are no shortcuts to it. So it's a time consuming and a sustained process to create a brand. Then this is the basic one. There should be no agreements with existing customers that bar you from launching your own brand. Obviously, if you do that, then they will leave and your manufacturing will be struggling. And so this is something which needs to be taken care of when you're starting your brand. And the biggest part is willingness to hire the right resource and expertise to develop the new vertical. the core competencies needed for developing a brand and making it grow are very different from managing a manufacturing operations. Uh, I would just elaborate. The two major functions which change is the brand marketing function, which is the brand development, brand positioning, brand marketing. And the second part is the sales function. So these two functions majorly change when you shift from a manufacturing to a brand category. So these two departments need to be created, and they need to be a great department to handle the brand. And the next point which comes in, because it's a cultural mindset shift when you move in uh, from a manufacturing to a brand perspective. So we need to become so there is when the difference here is, I'll just elaborate here. The difference here is, when you're manufacturing, you get an order, you get 100,000 pieces order, you deliver it one piece and gone. When you're running a brand, and most of the time in today's environment, we see that there are single pieces going, and most of us need to sell online, and there is a single piece shipment which is going every day. So in Alsys, we sell about 1,400 pieces every day online. So there are 1,400 shipments every day. So, and each customer is our buyer, and he can give us all kinds of inputs, and we have to hear him very carefully to grow the brand, to nurture the brand. Feedback, reverse feedback is so important. So we need to change our mindset from bulk selling to single piece selling. This is a very big change, and most manufacturers cannot digest this change. That's why a lot of them do not go in for their brand. So this is something we need to be aware, first of all, and we have to accept the suggestions, feedback, or any kind of this coming in from the customer to improve our brand. Obviously, all the feedbacks may not be fitting your brand. You can choose, pick and choose, but it's very important to hear all of those. Next slide. So now we come how to implement brand. How do a manufacturer starts? So first point is to identify challenge and gaps in the market which you strongly feel should be addressed. So I'll just give you example from our side. We have been manufacturing sportswear for the last 20 years. And we realized that India did not have a local sportswear brand. And we were only supplying, or only people catering to the Indian market were the international brands like Nikes, Adidas, Pumas, Reeboks. These were the majorly brands controlling the sportswear market in India. And we realized that there is a gap for an Indian sportswear brand which can be positioned between decathlons and the premium brands available in the Indian market. So Alsys was launched keeping that position in mind. So to generalize this statement, we need to find out a gap in the market, whether it is ladies wear, whether night wear, sleep, whether there are multiple opportunities available. I know better about a country like India, but I'm sure all countries have the similar kind of structure, and we can find out gaps there. So this is the first step to identify what is the gap in the market. Then identify your core strength that will help you develop a strong and viable product which has a good market. I think I've already answered that. Giving my example again, we core strength was to manufacture sportswear apparel, and we figured out that there is a gap in the market. So we could sense that we could do a brand, or we can extend our value from manufacturing to a branding perspective. Third step, define your target market clearly, which is most likely to buy the product. It should be a sizable chunk, but not everyone. So again, it is the same as finding out a gap in the market, not just in terms of product, in terms of price also. We can find a gap, and we can define our target market, and we can create a demographic and a psychographic profile of the target audience we require, and we can start that. Fourth step, identify your brand positioning strategy. You must define how you are differentiating yourself from similar brands in the industry. Of course. So this is where your marketing skills or your marketing departments come into play, where we create a definite market positioning for our brand. It's the most important thing for a brand, so that we can appeal to our target customer and position it rightly, so that the customer knows what our brand stands for. And this is where, when in the last slide we were talking about creating the right kind of marketing and sales department. So marketing departments will help us create it. And honestly, it's become easier now with digital marketing happening. It's a low cost strategy to create brand positioning. We have to just do it rightly. So now, from the past years to today, it is much easier creating the right brand with less investment. And we can, and the beauty of digital marketing and digital media is that we can pinpoint to our target customers and reach them directly and get feedback from them directly. In our earlier days, we used to have print media, and the newspaper media would just go to everyone. We would not know how much target customers has read those ads or has seen those ads. So things have changed a lot. And the next point will say, plan a marketing budget for the entire strategy. After you have completed the above process, it's time to allocate a budget for all your activities. So nothing very special about it. Of course, you need to allocate budget. But again, to add to the previous point, things have become better or cheaper today. I would say that marketing can be easily done through digital media, and it's a very low cost marketing. And you can really pinpoint on the target customer your brand requires. Next slide, please. So again, develop a brand identity that strikes a chord with the target audience. It's a continuation. Fourth, fifth, and sixth points are all marketing related points. And it is a process where you need to create a brand identity, and which appeals to your target audience. Then we have develop your communication channels and use them effectively. So again, this point, adding to the marketing and brand identity, we have to decide the communication channels we want to use, and we have to use them efficiently. Whether we want to do Facebook ads, Instagram ads, we can, or you want to go, it's a mass market product and you want to do a TV marketing. It's something which you need to decide and develop communications accordingly to these channels. Point number 8, ensure your product experience is great to products and services. Ensure that early customer feel wowed or delighted for choosing your product. So this is where I started. Each product is a shipment for you. When I look at from a manufacturer's angle, each product or each piece going out of your company is your kind of a brand ambassador, and it has to be liked by the customer, and we have to ensure that the customer likes our product, whether it is in terms of styling, in terms of measurements, in specs, fitting, actually not measurement or specs, but fitting, or in terms of packaging, what we are providing to the customer. All these are connected things which are required to sustain or create a brand, and creating the right positioning for the brand. This is a very important stage where, and in today's world, it's very easy to get feedback. You have Facebook pages where you get feedback. You have Instagram pages where you get feedbacks from the customer. And I think in today's atmosphere, if you have the right product, it is very easy to create the right brand and scale it up also. Yes, there are some hits and misses. Everybody does. We have done it. And there is a COVID also, which normally doesn't happen, but it has happened with my brand. So there are challenges which will keep coming in. But yes, there are more communication channels available now to reach the target customer. And the last point, manage post-buying consumer experience and keep in touch. So again, I have spoken about this already. We need to hear to our customers, get the feedback, positive or negative, doesn't matter. And we have to keep adding our brand experience to our target customer. Next slide.
Yeah. So we're getting into case study now.
Yeah, so this is our case study. We are based out of Noida. Basically manufacturing. We have about 5,000 people here working for us. And so 9 million units we do. We've increased it in the last few months. Now it's almost 12 million pieces a year. 12 million pieces a year. And our major core product is athleisure and sportswear. And major customers are Kappa, Hubble, Levi's, Pepe, and Reebok, Alsis. And we are now added Nautica. We started working with Skechers. So the list keeps going on. Next slide. Yeah. So how we started this. So to improve its response to market needs, Paragon, my company, decided to invest in knitting and dyeing facility for synthetic fabric. When I started manufacturing sportswear in India, I realized that we don't have the right fabric to make the right sportswear. So we used to import all our fabric from Taiwan. And we used to make some very low-class fabric out of India, sometimes in Ludhiana, sometimes out of Vapi. But most of our good products or the high-end fabrics we were importing out of Taiwan or sometimes Korea. But Taiwan was the biggest supplier. And most of the brands we worked with had nominated mills in Taiwan who could supply fabric, which is up to the standards with the global brands we're looking at. So we also started buying fabric, but what we did, we invested a lot of money and set up our own fabric mill in India. This was one of its kind in India, which made 5 tons of cotton and 5 tons of polyester every day. So which could give us flexibility to cater to a wide range of products from athleisure to active sportswear. So then the company realized opportunities that the rapidly growing Indian market offered for an affordable active sportswear brand. So then we decided to introduce our own brand. So we got this name Alsis. In fact, I had run a small project with the NIF students, and we had got the name suggestion. And Alsis came out as a great name. Alsis is Greek goddesses of physical strength. That's what Alsis means. So we liked this name, and we launched Alsis in 2017 for the Indian market. And the positioning was between, again, I'm repeating, it is between the premium brand which existed in the Indian market and the bottom of the pyramid brand Decathlon, which is not in terms of styling. I feel Decathlon styling is very good, but in terms of pricing, yes, it was the low end part of the Indian market. And we realized that India, with lot of colors and vibrancy in terms of their nature, there was a whole middle segment which was empty between the premium and the bottom part. And we launched a brand called Alsis, which is international quality at Indian prices. So this was our tagline when we started. Not that we were using a low price as our tagline, but this was the positioning of the brand when we started Alsis in India. So dedicated team to support the new brand were formed. One for product design development and another for marketing. So these were created. So product design, we already had some product design in Paragon, which is a manufacturing arm. And we just extended that product design to the Alsys brand. But we had to change the mindset because the product design for the manufacturing was mostly for the export or the Western countries. And this was for the Indian market. So we created a new product design setup, which is proactive for Indian designs, Indian colors. International colors finish between black, navy, gray, and a fashion color. The palette is more or less complete. But in India, we have bright yellow, bright pink. There are a lot of vibrancy in colors when we talk about the Indian market. So, so there was a need to create a product design department, which is slightly away from the manufacturing product design department. In 2017, the brand was on a very small way. I launched it in Jabong. So we started with, then we had an investor, and in 2017 who came in to help grow the brand. And in 2000, same year, we had Shikhar Dhawan as a brand ambassador and the company. And then in 2019, we launched our first EBO. Today, we have about 16 EBOs. We would have had more, but you know how COVID had changed the EBO game. Next slide, please.
Give some feel of the brand.
Some feel of the brand. It's a sportswear brand, both men's and women's apparel right now. And we have started the kids wear apparel also in a small way. Next slide. This is how our store looks. This is our store in Kochi at the Lulu Mall.
Next, please.
Next. So finally, the results achieved. So Alsys prides itself in being the first Indian brand having the capability and production ability to manufacture technologically advanced sportswear. So all our garments have some kind of a performance parameters like anti-odor or wicking or anti-UV. So we have all these performance parameters in our product. We also have scaled up to selling internationally in Dubai. Scandinavia, we have just started. So these are the international market we started with. Not for any other reason, but I had known these markets before. So we had some comfort in starting there. And then we are selling through shop-in-shops, through Central earlier. Now Reliance has taken over with Centro. We're starting there. Shoppers Stop and other outlet like Sports Station and a lot of big local retailers like Bindals in Delhi, like Kambalghad or in UP. So these are large retailers where we have shop-in-shops. And the brand obviously has grown in the last 5 years. The next chart will show that. Next. So we started in 2017 and so we had like the growth was stable between FY 19-20 and 2021 because of COVID and a lot of things were closed. But this year, first year after COVID, where we are getting a full spectrum of 1 year and we are almost at 13 million. So we should be about 80-90 crores this year and between 80 and 90 crores. So we have scaled up our business significantly since when we started. Next. So return of investment, not that we have made it's a very profitable till now, but yes, we are operating EBITDA positive company, and it's the profitability is improving every year, and some lessons learned. So without a specialized and dedicated team, a pure manufacturing company will not be able to create and nurture the brand. I have said this multiple times now. And for a brand to succeed, finding a clear niche and product differentiation is the key. I think, again, obviously, we need to have a gap. Otherwise, we'll be a Me Too brand and not successful. We'll be unable to scale it up. So definitely there is a gap analysis need to be done. And we need to launch a product where there is a opportunity and a gap in the market. And management of inventory and cash flow is critical for profitability. This is the final line, but this is the most important line. It is very easy to dump the products, but if the cash flows are not managed properly, you end up losing a lot of money here, because there are multiple ways. It's not just that if a manufacturer has an easier life when he just sends the shipment and gets the payment. Here, till the final consumer does not buy a product, you don't get the payment. Most of these large retailers work on SOR basis, which is sales or return basis. And a lot of times you end up getting the product back, or if you've not planned your inventory properly, you have a very difficult time with your cash flows. Next.
Thank you, Roshan.
I think that's about it from me.
Yeah, wonderful to have you. You have been really adventurous in your journey of creating your own brand, and thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
We will go to share now, and then we'll take the questions combined because the subject is quite close between two of them, and then we can get into the question answer. So can we invite Shreya for her presentation, please?
Yes, sure, Mr. Bheda. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're most welcome, Shreya. Yeah.
First of all, congratulations to you for this great initiative. It is a wonderful pleasure for me to be a part of this session. And I would like to, I think Delphine gave a very quick but a good introduction about Mr. Bheda and me. So I'll quickly move to the discussion, what we are here to talk about. Delphine, I am kind of skipping the slides, but you can just open it for the reference, but I'll try and move it to the session and the discussion. What I'm really eager to have with everybody present here. So just to give a quick introduction, I'm here to talk about the complete D2C sector, the startup culture in India, which is related to consumer technology and the way it is growing. So there is a very good saying called top of the mountain is the bottom of the next. So ideally, probably we are at the top of the manufacturing when it comes to Indian market, but we are still at the bottom of the D2C global presence when we talk about our complete country and brands being originated from here. We are a huge consumer market now. But in order to convert anybody, how Mr. Bheda beautifully explained the difference between the manufacturing segment and export segment and kind of evolving into a brand, it's like a whole evolution from being a businessman to an entrepreneur again, which definitely means that the two very major things to start with the thought process is Jazba and Jazbat, passion and emotion. Very important to start from that aspect. And, earlier, just to give you guys a gist of what we are doing right now. So we were working on a complete concept called Fashionverse. And Fashionverse is like a universe of D2C concept-based Dinvips brands, basically, wherein we were first kind of targeting for this Fashionverse to become I would say, all of these valuation funding and everything which is coming and pouring into Indian market and the startup ecosystem. Fashionverse to become $1 billion venture, but with the advent of the complete market being so aggressive, we actually realized each of our brand under Fashionverse, each of our concept and D2C concept under Fashionverse could be $1 billion valuation. And all of these thought could only happen when my founder, Mr. Bhardwaj, got an offer to build actually $100 million project. And he said no to it because he was so passionate and envisioned towards building this ecosystem. Because, we believe that the kind of process and export requires, if today we have to really have a segment of startup D2C under that ecosystem, we always say the day an exporter is ready to say no to a $5 million buyer's order, that day we are ready to make a $500 million startup in a D2C. So that's the thought process we actually flow in the whole system. Yeah, because it's an initiative, it has to start from that perspective. Because, when we talk about creating a brand, people generally have a notion that you create a product and you do marketing and we will be able to generate sales. And they're not wrong, because the market was like this a couple of years back. But now it is all about connecting with the consumer through certain story and narrative and solving a problem. Because if you're not able to solve a certain set of problem, then nobody is interested in this new concept what we are bringing on to the table. So that's exactly where it all starts from. And given the market size, D2C market in India is $100 billion market by 2025. And it is so nice to see that 43.8 billion, which is 43.8% of the total market, is completely expected out of fashion and apparel segment. And that's a huge market to be a part of. But having said that, we still have very, very few brands who've been able to kind of foray into that segment. And I'm talking about a real D2C, from factories floor to consumers' door, because we have a very rich infrastructure when it comes to the manufacturing side of it. And the moment we're able to kind of learn that beauty of how to put that to the end consumer, we are completely on the road of that scalable and investable model. Having said that, India is the youngest population in the whole world. In fact, we are higher than combining the whole young population of China and the US together. And all of these guys are spending 8 hours on an average on internet. And all of these guys, this consumer, what I'm talking about, these are all consumers who are aspirational, because the beauty of internet has actually done a wonderful thing to the audiences. So somebody sitting in probably Times Square, New York, and somebody sitting in Kanpur are watching the same content. They have the access to the same kind of things happening across the world. They have access to global content. So this youth is quite aspirational. But having said that, we need to really offer it to them. And exports being a very time consuming market in itself, and I'm not going to repeat it because Mr. Bheda has been very, very kind and very clear with his perspective. So, in order to do that, we need a team, we need that set of time, we need to be free, right? In the very first place, we need to have that freedom and we need to be free. These are the two adjectives which needs to be added into it. And in order to do that, in order to build that story, to have that narrative, to solve this problem, or to create that kind of a mindset, execution, team, and the complete roadmap of creating a startup and taking it into an investable and scalable model is something what as Fashionverse and as Fashion Tech, what we do. So we partner with people in order to bring in that freedom and freeness into the ecosystem so that both the businesses can be run parallelly. Because in nowadays, in the whole industry, when we hear and we read news, we are not opening any startup to run it for the next 15, 20 years. We have a very short period. What used to happen in 5, 6 years earlier is actually been happening in 1.5, 2 years now. So we have a shortage of time, and we have to ensure that we're able to kind of put that kind of input during that time. And for that, we need a complete set of management, time management, a business process re-engineering, and a complete team in order to execute it. And that's exactly what we do with people who come from your industry, with export houses, basically. So we partner together and build those ecosystems in order to create that particular aspect. Because, a brand needs to be, it's called consumer tech, but it actually has to be consumer obsessed. Because, it is all about building or kind of putting something to that consumer, which they are willing to actually spend on, or they are probably, how to put it forward, let me just simplify this. So, brand generally, or our society for that matter, it's a very status driven society. So when we talk about our Indian ecosystem, it's a status driven society, and our brand kind of takes those people and consumers on a higher level of that status, and the brand should be able to solve that problem. It doesn't have to be cheap, it doesn't have to be expensive, it has to be penetrating emotionally and psychologically into their mind. And this is exactly a D2C ecosystem is all about. So we call it DCD model, wherein data, concept, and disruption are the three major points which are conjoined together, triangulated together in order to build initially as an ecosystem, and then identify the right gap in the market, and then have the right team to execute that, and then over a period of time scale it to a system wherein you're able to get. So we also work on valuation and funding. We have a networking of investors with us. So scale it to a level wherein you're not really investing money into your own startup from your own pocket, but actually have somebody as a partner on board, not as a bank or anybody, as a partner on board in the form of a VC to help you scale that brand in a certain aspect of a time frame. So this is exactly how the whole ecosystem or the fashionverse thing moves forward. Delphine, can you move to the other slides so that I can also keep talking about the slides in between? Yeah. So, when we talk about the current market, the market trend right now, of course, this is a market of millennials and Gen Zs, and the D2C journey has to be completely positioned in their aspect. So if I go through these slides quickly, so find the rationale for adopting D2C model, communicate this down to the employees. Of course, the people who are already working in the export segment, they're very used to a way of working. It has to be a volumetric game because our designing an aspect in an export house is as good as our buyer's handwriting, right? Because we are not really making it for the end consumer through the ecosystem. We're making it for the buyer. So the thought process in the current ecosystem to be kind of iterating it is very important. Carry out a market survey is a point of the data. So we work on deep data insights to understand that what is the market cap of a certain category right now and how acceptable that category is in the whole industry or by the target audience what we are having, and then probably initiate something which is called a no inventory model. So we have taken a lot of time, in fact, almost 2 years to build this whole backend infrastructure, which is called no inventory model, wherein we are able to solve a problem of a D2C brand as well by not really building a lot of inventories. And that is exactly which is a part of our concept, a whole, I would say an understanding of how we can, generate a balance between input versus output. So without building a lot of inventories, we're still able to kind of put the brands in the market to generate a certain aspect of sale and meeting the targets what we have. Take services of an expert and chart out a roadmap for D2C journey. And that's exactly where we have a team of experts wherein we actually chalk it out, because it all starts from building the business plan, because we say the right planning is half the work done. And that's exactly how the roadmap is built.
Shreya, can we go to case study? Maybe it will be much easier for people to relate.
Sorry?
Rajesh here, I said, if we can discuss this through a case study would be much better. These points people will be able to see in the publication.
Absolutely, absolutely. So probably
the case study, that will be great.
Perfect. So identifying the product line. I think why I was kind of skipping these, because I think Mr. Bheda already kind of covered those aspects.
Move on to case study, actually,
Yeah, let's move on to the case study.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a case study wherein I'm talking about one of our partners, okay, and who is based out of Noida again, and 38% of his employees are women employees. He has a production capacity of 70,000 pieces per month, and he's been working with major buyers like Target, Superdry, Okairi, and Zara. And we have built a concept in D2C with him, which is called Vastra Tech, which is a fusion of fashion and technology together in order to solve the problem of safety through fashion and garments. So that is something I'll elaborate it probably in the next segment, but this has already, so it at pre-revenue rather, we have not even taken this brand in the market, but only on the basis of the concept and the ecosystem what we have built of Vastra Tech. We are already at a valuation of approximately $30 million, and it has always been appreciated with the government bodies. We filed a patent for this particular technology, what we have built in the fashion segment with this particular partner of ours, and it's doing amazingly well right now. So Delphine, can we go to the next slide? So yeah, so these are some of the processes what we actually follow. And I already spoke about the market size of D2C by 2025. So I'll move to the steps which are written over there. So as brand architects, we build the complete business model, the complete ecosystem, right from the execution, the team, and the most important thing, as I said, DCD, which is the data planning, the concept building, and the disruption model is the first step. Then we get into the conceptualization of the complete market trend and the target audience, what we need to have, and building the complete execution of that model. Then we put the resources from our end, because we feel that coming from the forward integration side of it, our resources would be well trained from our end in order to take the forward integration forward. So that is the first step what we get into. And then we're launching all these brands on Fashionverse right now. So there's a little bit of change in the business model, because Fashionverse is the next step. So these are the 4 steps what we are following right now to build the ecosystem.
Next slide.
Okay, so this is the initial R&D segment, what we really did. So you guys I'm not really taking you through this because it's a self-explanatory graph. So if you look at the complete, quarter-wise development from 2019 till 2020, you'll be able to see the mark which has been done through the graph. Can we move to the next segment? Yeah. So we were sitting at $274,000 of sales in the first quarter of the launch in 2019. And it is definitely at the all-time high. It was. So this is a little older data right now. So we have kind of revamped, as I said, that we are sitting on a valuation of $30 million with this particular concept right now in 2022. And it is also being kind of connected with the government bodies. So yeah, we are like hoping to take it to a scale of $100 million by 2025. So that's the complete valuation target for this particular case study. So the lessons learned, the most important aspect, so this case study shows that how D2C route is not widely prevalent. It can enable a manufacturer or an exporter to make a very, very productive use of their facilities without really being 100% buyer dependent. And both the aspects can easily coexist. As I already said in the earlier conversation as well, that export in itself it demands time, because it is something which needs to be taken care of in a very close content. And that's exactly how this whole D2C model of brand architecture comes as a partner in order to kind of solve that particular problem in the current ecosystem. So using certain set of machinery, building a complete team from our end and executing the right concept, taking it to the consumer with the right process, and of course, eventually scaling it is the right way or the right roadmap to be taken care by. So specifically a direct connect with the end consumer, because ultimately when we're working in export division, we can have 10 buyers, 15 buyers, 20 buyers at the max, but the number of consumer is humongous. And definitely the buyers whom we are working with are also brands ultimately. So if we convert ourselves into one of our buyers, so we can treat this brand as actually one of our buyers. We do not really have to take it as a separate segment. And that mindset will help us really build, of course, as Mr. Bheda was saying that there the shipments are happening in bulk, and this might not be the same case. But yes, if the treatment is similar, then definitely eventually it could surpass the complete ecosystem of an export as well. It definitely has that kind of potential. So in this case, the partial shift did not just help them sustain the backend during the pandemic, because during pandemic, of course, we all kind of faced a certain issue when it came to cancellation of shipments and everything. And there were labor, salaries were supposed to be paid. But with the advent of internet and D2C, with this particular case study, we kept the unit going on. We started making which everybody got into it. We started making masks and all of those things and started selling it through the brand. In fact, it sold amazingly well, and it really did not make us feel that the pandemic has really created any kind of dent in the current business, because the D2C brand was able to kind of satiate or balance the need.
Thank you, Shreya.
So Thank you
Shreya,
so much.
for
Thank you
your
so much.
energetic and wonderful presentation. Very insightful. This is relatively new area to be explored and D2C. And
Absolutely.
these are really good insights from the particular case study and the overall approach that you talked about in terms of exciting opportunities, not only within India, but similar opportunities exist in the other countries as well. Because again, the
Definitely.
youth by the young consumers, aspirational class is there everywhere. And I'm sure that these will be a useful learning for everybody who's listening to the session.
Absolutely.
If there are any questions from our audience, if you can kindly write in the Q&A section, that will be great. And yeah, Delphine, do you have any question for our panelists?
I don't have a question, but I see that there's a hand that has been raised
Okay.
by a participant. So
Okay.
it would be nice to hear a little bit about, to hear our audience. So Santosh Kumar Tarai, if you want to open your mic and ask your question.
You just need to open your mic. You're allowed to talk. But I think we can move forward.
Okay. So Shreya, maybe I would like to ask a question.
Yes,
What has
absolutely.
been
Please.
what has been the response of the exporting community about taking interest in looking at this opportunity? And apart from this particular case you talked about, how do you see response and preparedness of the organizations to take a plunge or try out D2C route as a expansion of business or creating vertical? What has been your experience like?
I'm so sorry, Mr. Bheda. I missed your voice in between for 2-3 seconds. I could not relate to the complete question.
Okay.
I'm really sorry for that.
If I can repeat, what has been your experience in terms of response of garment exporting community in terms of looking at opportunities in D2C overall and their preparedness? Is that still a difficulty?
I'm so sorry. I'm missing. There is some internet issue in my side. I'm really sorry for this, but I'm not able to hear the question. It's just, you're getting stuck in the video. I think it's only happening for me, or
Probably. Roshan?
Yes.
Are you able to hear us?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So we know that you have been speaking at various forums about your experience of ALSIS and what is your view, how the exporting community is looking at potentially creating a brand or following a similar model? What do you hear from the industry friends? A brief
So,
input.
very few manufacturers have ventured this path in the past. Most of them are content with what they are doing today. And since this is a different animal, people are slightly apprehensive of venturing into this setup. But if you can see a gap in the market, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to create more value of your experience for the last so many years in manufacturing and understanding the product. It is a extension of whatever you're doing today, extend it with sales and marketing. And if you can do it rightly with some struggle, I won't say that the success will be immediate. Neither it has been for me. Even today, sometimes I struggle. When COVID happened, we struggled in terms of retail, and then we had a huge this thing on Future Group, which collapsed. So there has been hiccups, but I think we can get over these hiccups with some sustained marketing, sales, and all these process. And if I talk in terms of the Indian market, again, it's a big market and a young market. I think there's a lot of opportunities available for us.
I'm also trying to see the other questions. Thank you, Roshan. That was useful, certainly. What I also realized that while the traditional exporters have not really ventured into this area much, but there is a lot of young entrepreneurs and startups that are starting a variety of brands supported by the marketplaces, players like Myntra, Jabong, players like Amazon, and other marketplaces, and a whole lot of entrepreneurship and young professionals taking the plunge into brand creation. That seems to be on high. Quite a lot of young IIM graduates are sort of refusing the offers of multinationals or consulting firms and so on, and creating brands that have really grown substantially in the last decade or so. So while the traditional manufacturers still find it difficult to venture into this area, we see a lot of young brands progressing quite well. And looking at the Indian market growing as well as global opportunities, this certainly is an area of a great interest and opportunity. And the case that you shared with us definitely will help the audience, I'm very sure. Shreya, are you still with us? And are you able to hear us?
Yes, now you're absolutely clear.
Oh, wonderful. So the question was that, you've been speaking about the opportunities in D2C, and we see there are quite a few micro brands that are coming up, and overall interest of young professionals into fashion business and creating brand is much higher compared to traditional manufacturing community as such.
True.
What has been your response, or what has been your feedback or your experience with the exporting community? How excited they are about looking at this opportunity? A brief answer will be great.
Right. So I would just say that, traditional businessmen and my experience. So we always say that creating a brand is an action of passion. It's not a calculation of mind. So when you are completely engrossed in your day to day, probably you're reading about these first generation entrepreneur. I have entrepreneur panel wherein all of these young first generation entrepreneurs like Aman Gupta from Boat and Vinita and Ghazal and Bowskin, all of these guys, Alak Pandey from Physics Wala. So all of us are a part of it. And then they have another association which I go to, which is called CMAI or NAEC. And I meet Mr. Rahul Mehta, I meet Mr. Lalit Thukral, and I kind of have a discussion with them. So there are like two different worlds I am talking to. And the whole idea is that we are trying to conjoin it. I think that everybody in the back of their mind, they have this idea, but only that execution part and that, understanding of the whole market, they're taking that first initiative, because we always say, no, you cannot learn driving in a parked car. But having said that, if, they'll not really move forward, and most of them, they don't know. So it's more like a mindset that if I don't know this, the chances of failure is much higher. And I already have an existing business, so why should I really kind of move into something which I'm not that aware of? Because I have my shipments going, I have my buyers lined up, I have to go for exhibitions, I have container issues going on, dollar rates fluctuating. So there are a lot of things which are already going on. And being a very closed market, most of the buyers, they want to work with the, founders or the owners directly. They're not very comfortable with the team, so they always have to be the face. And I think that is exactly where the whole challenge comes. First is the whole know-how and the potential of the market. We always forget that 90% or 80% of our malls are filled with international brands. And that is only because we are a huge consumer market. And, once we're able to kind of understand the potential of this, we will be able to nail it beautifully. Because even when we talk about outside India, US, and all of these guys, they're not very proficient with manufacturing as much as we are. The infrastructure, the labor and everything, we're very rich in that, the textile and everything. But then so accustomed to a certain way of working, it kind of acts as a deterrent. The second thing is, of course, they need a team to execute this. Even if they hire a team, you need to invest time to make sure that the team is executing the work. And that's another challenge of time investment. And you never create a new business by hampering the current one, because there's a cash cow. So that is another challenge. What I have analyzed, that's why it kind of holds them back. And the third thing is probably, working in an ecosystem for 15, 20 years, I see the second generation, even in exports who are coming in, they are kind of changing the trend. They are taking a lot of enthusiasm in order to kind of move or create a parallel set of business. So that is adding value. But again, most of the next generation are also not interested to get into exports. So they're all settled in the US or somewhere else. So it just becomes a challenge. So here, what we are doing is so we are with Mr. Tukral, Mr. Lalit Tukral. I'm sure you would know fairly these names are Mr. Rahul Mehta from CMI. So we are talking to them because we also want to have people, because it is just not about investing money or creating a product or putting it out there. We need to have the right synergies, and we're talking to them in order to kind of figure out those people who have that set of synergies who can actually come in the forward integration, and then rest of the work will be completely taken care by us so that we are able to create a win-win situation.
Wonderful, Shreya. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Roshan as well as Shreya, for your insightful first-hand experiences shared with the audience. That concludes our first panel. Thank you very much once again. We are quite excited to move on to our next panel. Can we have the panel slide, please, and Delphine, for you to do the introductions.
And before, just a very quick reminder to panelists to try to speak a bit slowly because it's sometimes a struggle for the interpreters to be able to keep up. But I know you speak with passion, so obviously it comes with, a flow and many things to say, and that's great. But I think the interpreters are sometimes having a little bit of trouble. So we're moving on, and sorry for the questions that we could not take, but please write in the Q&A, and our panelists can also reply directly to you on the Q&A this morning. So we're a bit pressed of times, and we have some great speakers coming up for this second panel, which now we move to the institutional and sector level good practices. And it's nice because, I mean, it's been discussed already by our speakers that as a business, sometimes you need also some help and support from associations or sectoral association, which sort of help you to and guide the businesses on their practices. And so this morning we have three prominent speakers. We have Mr. Farouk Hassan, who is the president of the Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exporters Association. It's one of the largest trade associations in Bangladesh, representing the ready-made garment industry, and very important since this industry is really at the backbone of Bangladesh's economy. So we're very eager to hear from him and share some good practices on how associations can really help and support, the blooming of a sector. Then we'll hear Mr. Johan Lawrence, who is Secretary General of the Joint Apparel Association Forum. Mr. Lawrence has more than 20 years of experience in high-level positions in management of apparel businesses. He has been chairman of the Sri Lanka Apparel Exporters Association, and so now he's SG of JAAF, which is the apex body which is guiding the Sri Lanka apparel industry as one of the main apparel sourcing destinations in the world. And finally, we'll move more to the academia world, and we'll hear Dr. Vandana Bandari, who is currently professor at the National Institute of Fashion Technology in Delhi, if I'm not mistaken, in India. And besides being a teacher, Dr. Bandari has also written and authored, compiled a lot of books on fashion and textile. So that's our three prominent speakers. And I guess we'll give the floor to President Hassan of BGMEA.
Thank you, Farouk Bhai, for joining. And you're most welcome to share your thoughts and your rich experience of the management of industry association and how you see the growth of the sector and how association has played its role in steering the industry in the right direction.
Thank you, Rajesh. Dr. Rajesh, thank you very much. A very good afternoon from Dhaka, Bangladesh to you all. And of course, good morning, the other part of the world. So first of all, I'm delighted to be here in this webinar on behalf of Bangladesh Garment Manufacturer and Exporter Association. People know that as a BGMEA. And I would like to thank the organizer, ITC, for selecting BGMEA in the publication of ITC as a case study of effective management of industry association, and inviting me to say a few words on Bangladesh RMG industry strides towards and sustainability. Bangladesh, the second largest apparel exporting country in the world right now. In fact, in denim, we are already #1 in globally, in America and USA and all the parts. And in fact, 83% of our total export earnings are generated from this particular sector. It employs directly over 4 million workers, mainly women from rural areas. Directly and indirectly, about 5 crore people lives and livelihood depend on this sector. The RMG industry is one of the kind which created the scope for the low-skilled women workforce to penetrate in the formal sector of the economy and mark their contribution and position in the family. The sector contributes around 11% of the national GDP of Bangladesh. Last financial year, our export, in Bangladesh, our financial year is from July to June. And last financial year, our export was over 42 billion, exactly 42.61. And adding some other textile item like home textile and other, that is another $2.55 billion. So altogether, we had almost 86% of our total export. And we are exporting to around 167 countries of the world. So it is needless to mention how important and massive the RMG industry is for the overall socio-development of Bangladesh. BGMEA is the apex trade body of Bangladesh RMG industry and is responsible to provide important policy advocacy, trade promotion, sustainability, and branding of the sector to the rest of the world. Sustainability is one of the core areas of concern from BGMEA and the industry. On the positive, we have already made some great strides towards. Bangladesh has the highest number of LEED green factory in the world, as verified by the USGBC, United States Green Building Council. We have right now 173 green factory. Out of that, 54 are platinum rated, 105 are gold rated. And there are another 550 plus factories are in a different process to get this green LEED certification. And right now, out of top 10 world best factories, 7 are in Bangladesh. If we again say that out of top 100 factories, in fact, 41 factories are located in Bangladesh. And BGMEA won the USGBC Leadership Award in 2021 for its extraordinary contribution of green industrialization. We have signed the UNFCCC Fashion Industry Charter for climate action with specific target to reduce GHG emission by 30% by 2030. BGMEA, quite a big number of BGMEA member factories have published SDGs report partnering UNDP and Bangladesh government. BGMEA being the first association in Bangladesh has published its sustainability reporting as an association based on GRI. Build on the success of BGMEA has taken an initiative of industry-wide ESG digital cloud-based data disclosure platform through which all our members will be disclosing their data in the digital platform through which we will be able to develop the industry ESG data dashboard. Recently, BGMEA has also unveiled its new logo with a story inside the new logo of Bangladesh. BGME is composed with 9 dots having the core principle of BGME that includes dot 1, people, 2, inclusivity, 3, transparency, 4, infrastructure, 5, innovation, 6, circularity, 7, global network, 8, environment, and 9, number 9 is a brand Bangladesh. BGME publishes sustainability strategic ESG vision 2030 that looked into the ESG issues pertinent to industry and aligned with the Sustainable Development Goal and the Bangladesh National Priority Indicators. BGME also created workers' digital data base for clarity of the demographics of our workers, partnering with the BRAC University and supported by Lord's Foundation of BGME also have created Mapped in Bangladesh, a digital map of Bangladesh RMG industry. We have also developed a mobile application for the BGME members, giving all information, update information, data, and trade information, trade data. We have also taken the initiative to get the BGME headquarter marking, making a LEED certified building. The BGME Institute of Fashion Technology has created in 1999 to support the development of human resources for the industry. In 2021, it became the BGME University of Fashion and Technology. And recently, we have taken, we got a permission to set up another fashion and textile university in Chittagong, which is going to start from 2023, 1st January. BGME played a crucial facilitation role in the successful implementation of the Accord 19 and Alliance 20 program aimed at improving safety and working condition involving international and national stakeholders. BGME also has its own factory safety audit cell. Creation of the Ready-Made Garment Sustainability Council, which all knows as the RSC, to take over the task of safety inspection in garment factories after the conclusion of the Accord and Alliance program. Yes, yet another significant initiative to assure international buyer about continued effort and an institutional mechanism to improve safety standard. With the support of the government of Bangladesh and development partner, BGME has been implementing skill development program for garment employees and workers through several training centers across the country. The trained people are placed in job in garment factories. BGME organized International Buyer Seller Meet to exhibit, showcase the latest range of products from the manufacturing of Bangladesh, and the meet new buyers is also helped to identify new product categories for product diversification. BGME worked with Ministry of Finance of Bangladesh and develop policies to provide benefit to new foreign investors in the ready-made garment sector, such as export subsidies and fiscal incentive in terms of reduced taxes and export incentive. BGME has pledged to the Green Button Initiative of the German government. The Green Button Initiative is the first ever state-owned global seal on environmental sustainability. It considers all aspects of sustainability of the apparel sector. BGME already set up a center, recently set up a center of innovation and efficiency and OHS within the BGME premises, and it's looking forward to support the industry to enhance sustainability and boost productivity and innovation within the sector. In fact, you know that the Bangladesh have just turned 50 plus. So we are now celebrating 50 years of our independence. And we are proud of the tremendous accomplishment our nation has made so far, leading to a huge transformation in social, economic, and infrastructure front. In last 51 years, our total national export earning has exceeded $51 billion in recently concluded fiscal year. In about 4 decades, the ready-made garment industry has emerged as the lifeblood of the Bangladesh economy through its contribution to country's export earning, employment, empowerment, and women employment, poverty elevation, and into GDP growth. The robust growth in the RMG sector and industry, which helped Bangladesh achieve both international and domestic prosperity, did not come by a chance. The industry continues to be a position as the second largest exporter globally through excellence in quality, competitive cost, well-timely delivery, and outstanding practice in sustainability. In recent years, we have undergone a massive transformation in the area of workplace safety, environmental sustainability, and compliance issues. Our vision for the next decade is to pursue new areas of opportunity, growth, and excellence, modernization, innovation, diversification, and technology upgradation are all in our card as much as we prioritize health, education, and well-being of our dear workers. The apparel industry in Bangladesh has made significant strides towards sustainability manufacturing and continues to build a resilient ecosystem among the key stakeholders within the supply chain. We believe that sustainability is not only about fulfilling social, ecological, and community obligation, it is also about building a strategic coalition among the broader stakeholders towards a sustainable, resilient, modern, fair, and equitable supply chain, with an aim to highlight the progress being made and to inspire the industry and its valued stakeholder to its road to future prosperity. Together, BGME, in collaboration with few partners, is organizing Made in Bangladesh Week 2022. And this will be a big event, not only help draw global attention on the critical aspect of sustainability, but also unite a global force in realizing the vision to taking the fashion industry forward. And I believe this first ever a week-long mega event during 12 to 18, I'm taking this opportunity to welcome all who are in this seminar during this 12 to 18 November 2020 in Dhaka to celebrate the progress being made in the industry and to chart the new way forward. The week-long mega event will accommodate a number of programs which will be portraying the development of Bangladesh as a country and the ready-made garment industry. The event also aims to draw a strategic alignment among the broader stakeholders towards a modern, responsible, and sustainable supply chain. Under the umbrella of Made in Bangladesh Week, we are going to organize 3 competition-based award programs. One of the programs is Sustainable Design and Innovation Award to be held on November 16. The objective of this award program is to offer a platform for talented young professional and students to find creative and innovative sustainable design, progress, innovation in the country through a rigorous selection process. By participating in this competition, professional will also get the opportunity to showcase their talent to a multinational brand, retailer, and Bangladesh manufacturers. So I'd like to welcome you all to this mega event, which is going to be held in Bangladesh. And during this event, we will have a Dhaka Apparel Summit. This is the 3rd time we are going to host this Apparel Summit. First was held in 2014, the second was in 2017, and this time it will be 2-day summit. Then for the first time, we are going to have a Dhaka Apparel Expo, and there will, during that time, the same time, there will be a Bangladesh Denim Expo, and there will be a Sustainable Leadership Award competition, Made in Bangladesh Photography Award competition, NRB Award, Fashion and Innovation Runaway Show. So there are multiple program and event, and we welcome you to join this program. The details we will send you immediately. So thank you very much for the patient hearing.
Thank you, Farooq Bhai, for a comprehensive overview of the activities of Bangladesh and the Bangladesh garment industry, the role played by BGMEA in interacting with diverse stakeholders, starting from the international brands, development agencies, to workers' representatives, to educational institutes. I recently saw that 2 days back you met the young entrepreneurs and you interacted with them in terms of their role in taking the Bangladesh industry forward, their role in innovation. And it has been a great personal pleasure for me to have witnessed this journey of Bangladesh garment industry, BGMA, and I had a privilege of working together with you and the association. That's really wonderful. I have two questions which I feel that our audience, especially from industry associations in other parts of the world, would be able to benefit from. And so when you look at the industry associations playing their role, the example of BGMA straightway comes to mind because the kind of diverse activities you are able to do so. My question is that how does BGMA manage to engage on so many fronts simultaneously and keep the momentum going? Because it's a mammoth task. It's not very easy. I know the personal commitment of each of the board members. You're almost giving full time for the association. But if you can throw some light for the benefit of our other industry association friends in terms of how do we manage the association?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because it's really because I'm involved with this BGMA for already. I'm sure you know that I'm involved for many years, I have gone to a step by step. First I was a standing committee member, then chairman of a standing committee. We have a different standing committee. Then I became I elected director in I think in 2001. I became a elected director for 2 consecutive terms, and then in 2009 I elected as a vice president for 2 consecutive terms, and then 2014 I was elected as a senior vice president, and finally in 2021 during a peak pandemic time I was elected as a president, and it was a very challenging time. My commitment is that during my tenure that in fact I'm giving full time. Though we are working as a voluntary work, we are not getting any facilities or financial facilities, but it's a completely voluntary work. But it's since it's a very important, and this is issue of our country. So, and also this is the area where our next generation is also looking to support. As you have seen that in last week, I had a meeting with all the 2nd and 3rd generation future leaders, and they are working on that. So we made this. We had a board of directors, and we have distribution the work that we have also some vice president. So under vice president, we have distributed the work, like who looks after the development partners, some are looking after the industrial relation, which is the worker side, some look after the finance side, and also the administration side. So by that way, we have also several standing committee, and so regularly we are meeting, and we are always talking. And we had a strong RDTI cell here, Research Development and Trade Information Cell, where we get all this information and trying to update this information to our members so that they can make decision in future. So it is not easy really for Bangladesh, being the 2nd largest apparel exporter, though, because in apparel or garments, what we are wearing, normally there is 2 core raw materials. One is for cotton-based garments, the cotton. In fact, out of our total requirement, we don't produce even 2%. Just over a 1% cotton we produce. And for the non-cotton or man-made fibers, we don't produce anything. We don't have any petrochemical, any plant or any facilities. To become a 2nd largest apparel exporter and be a competitive, it's not really easy. But resilient, our workforce and the entrepreneur we are working hard, and we also get some support and cooperation in the policy matter from the government, as well as we have a very good liaison we maintain with our development partner, the embassies here, and also the buyer. The brands and buyers are very important for us. So we are maintaining a good relationship with them. It's not easy. It is not easy because buyers are always trying to give as less as price possible, and anything goes wrong anywhere in the world, its effect or impact on RMD. Because right now, since we have we have coming back from COVID, from this pandemic, but now we are having a problem with this Russia and Ukraine invasion or the war. So this is not easy. There are many buyers that are holding orders, stop giving orders, but again, we are working on it. So we have to give a lot of time on this, and we have to attend many sessions, many conference, and visiting different country for marketing.
Thank you, Farooq Bhai. I understand. I closely watch how committed you are to the industry. All the board members are constantly moving from one engagement to other and keeping the flock together, giving them direction. Really is time to appreciate the effort of exporting community and the workforce and all the other stakeholders. Thank you for the invitation for Bangladesh Apparel Week. I shall personally be there. Certainly, our team is already there, and I'm sure some of our audience will also be there. Once again, thank you very much. It's great to have you for the event, plus your contribution for the good practices manual. With this, now may I invite Johan Lawrence to...
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're most welcome, sir. Can we have Johan to share his presentation or his thoughts on creation of sector level brand and the journey through government without guilt, and how the Sri Lankan apparel sector is moving forward and the role played by JAM.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh, and thank you to ITC for asking me to be part of this session. I'm both honored and pleased to be here. I'm just going to run, I don't have a presentation. I'm just going to run through a little bit in terms of JAF and what it's done and how it's helped. So JAF is the industry apex body. So we are an association of associations effectively. Our members are 5 of the main industry associations connected with the entire value chain of the industry. So we have fabric manufacturers, accessory manufacturers, we have garment makers, we have representatives, local representatives of brands, local buying officers, and so on. So the idea is that JAF runs across the entire gamut. Anybody who is involved in the export of apparel is part of JAF. And JAF was set up in 2002, really to be able to kind of have one voice, one industry voice that talks to policymakers, that does the lobbying, that does all of the work that the industry associations do, including servicing of its members. It was very interesting listening to Farooq Hassan on Bangladesh, because the situation in Sri Lanka is quite different. Within Sri Lanka, apparel is a large part of the economy. So on merchandise exports, we are about 50% of the exports of the country. We're about 7% of the country's GDP. We employ directly around 350,000 people, and all told, touching the lives around 1 million people. So within the Sri Lankan economy, we're a large part. Yet on the flip side, in terms of the global apparel, we're tiny. Sri Lanka's apparel exports are a little over 5 billion, which puts us just under about 1/10 of the size of Bangladesh, I suppose. And really, Sri Lanka is probably less than 1% of global apparel trade. So this places us in a very precarious position, because you're very important in the local economy, but at the same time, you're arguably not so important in terms of size in the market. And that places you in a very difficult position. So when JAF was set up, it was set up just ahead of the 2005 MFA agreement coming to an end. And it was set up really to be able to have this one voice that talks to the entire industry, and making sure that we have a coordinated effort across the industry in how to deal with the fallout of the end of the multi-fiber agreement and the end of quotas. So there was one common cause that brought everybody together. And one of the key things about JAF is that everybody who sits around the table really comes from an approach of saying it's country first, sector second, association third, and individual company fourth. So everybody comes to JAF with that one agenda, that everything that we do is really about what is in the best interest of the country, followed by what is in the best interest of the industry. And we also therefore make sure that whenever we take up an issue, it's something that is always deemed important enough by one of our members, which then gets escalated through the associations. So that one industry voice, that one credible voice, is what gives JAF the presence in the economy and in terms of all our discussions. Why are we so successful? I think it's because of that, and it is also because of obviously funding. To run an apex body industrial organization is not something that's easy to do, and you have to have a reliance on funding to do this. We also make it a point to make sure that the size of the company does not determine their voice around the table. So within our associations is something called the Sri Lanka Chamber of Garment Exporters, which is essentially the sort of smaller independent SME type companies. And we make it a point to make sure that their voice is also heard, because although they're a smaller part of it, they're a very integral part of the cog of the system. So the idea is that JAF, as I said, represents everybody that is with one agenda, and that is for the export of apparel. So I know Rajesh touched briefly on Garments Without Guilt, which one of the programs we came up with in around this time to kind of showcase Sri Lanka's ethical compliance. And really, we built on that. Garments Without Guilt has moved on. This was pre-Hague and all of this. So in a sense, from a relevance point of view, it's slightly less, but having moved away from that, the scheme still exists. A number of companies still take part in it because there's a national pride in it. But it's also given us the platform to doing different things. So just a few of the things that JAF has been able to achieve in the last few years, and particularly in the kind of post-COVID era. So for example, during COVID, there was a big discussion about how companies would deal with the fact that they didn't have work, and how do they deal with employees, because Sri Lanka's legal system doesn't allow for furloughs and so on. So we were able as JAF to go to the tripartite negotiating table, which is the government, the unions, and employers, not just apparel, but the other sectors as well, and to be able to strike a deal whereby employees who, when companies didn't have work or people couldn't come into work, there was an arrangement for payment of reduced wages, and this helped to ensure that the industry maintained its headcount through the crisis, because we as a sector knew that the last thing we wanted to do was to lose workers, because we know how valuable they are and obviously needed in the post-COVID recovery. So that was one example. Again, a couple of things that have happened recently. So JAF has now signed an MOU with the ILO, the Better Work program of the ILO, where we've helped to curate a program for Sri Lanka that's different to what Better Work does in other countries, because the situation in Sri Lanka is different. Similarly, as JAF, we've also come into a memorandum of understanding with trade unions, so that we also act as that mediator in terms of social dialogue, in terms of making sure that lines of communication remain open, in making sure that we work together. So if I come to why is JAF successful, is because of these core ideas, and that because of the fact that everybody who comes around the table really comes to it with the single agenda. In terms of how we're structured, as I said, we have 5 industry associations who are what we call our the kind of like the key stakeholders, and it is the chairman or as chairman or chairwoman of those respective associations that is actually has the casting voice, if you like, around the table. So any decision that is done by JAF has to be signed off by consensus of all 5 of the industry channel. And that ensures that everybody's interests are looked after, and that, you know, generally because it's on an export agenda, there's very little conflict. Everybody wants the same thing, but it's about prioritizing what is really important. What are the bigger issues in the industry? I'll just touch on one more point, because historically JAF also had with it at some point the local associations. And after a point, we felt that because there was a divergence of values of what they were looking at, because we as JAF, our main agenda is the export agenda. So we have been, and we still have a very close contact with the associations who deal with the local industry, but they're not part of JAF for the reason that their agenda is different, because they want to obviously grow domestic business. We want to grow export business. And sometimes the two don't always go hand in hand, or the asks of the government are different. So it's quite important when you have something like JAF to have that common agenda, that common goal that is really deeply built into everything we do. So as I said, the agenda is very focused. It's very much what is needed to grow the export of apparel. And then how do we build that into our systems? What is it that we need to do? Who do we need to lobby? What are the priorities and so on? So it's quite unique in that sense. It's worked. It's, as I said, 20 odd years old now. It's got an acceptance both internationally and domestically as being the key body that speaks for the apparel industry. So that's where we are. I'm just conscious of time. I'm probably just about run out my 10 minutes. So I'll stop with that, but happy to take any questions and provide any further clarification as needed. So with that, thanks again for asking me, and back to you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Johan. Very insightful and concise. You mentioned very important, of course, many important points there, but you talked about management of finances. And when we deal with, as ITC, in various countries and try to look at the industry associations, in many cases, the sector is at a nascent stage of development. It's coming together, people are coming together, and they're looking at managing the association in an effective manner. And the issue of finance comes in. How do we get the finances? How do we manage the finances? So what do you think would be your, say, small advice or tip for the younger associations in relatively newer countries who are new to garment sector? How do they organize themselves? How do they ensure that they're able to raise and manage finance?
So I thank you, Raj. So I think one of the key issues, and this I'm sure is the same across all associations, is that very few, in a sense. So let me just explain how I set up. So each of the industry associations pays into the JAF, and then as and when projects or something urgent comes up, we then reach out for funding. Now, one of the things we have to accept is that not everybody is able to fund equally. And in JAF, you have to kind of expect in any industry associations, you have to expect two things. One is that a few people will, a smaller amount of people will do the hard work and everybody benefits, because when some concession is given, it affects everybody. And you have to live with that. You have to understand that, not everybody can put their shoulder to the wheel at the same time. And therefore, dependent on the need, the hard work has to be done by whoever is most able to do that. But with regard to funding, it's the same thing. And that you have to accept that sometimes effectively there is subsidization that's going on because one organization is contributing more because it can or because it feels urgently about the need. The net impact is for the industry, but somebody else is not able. So you have to accept that principle. You have to, kind of move away from the mindset of saying, I'm buying my place at the seat. I'm the biggest donor, so you do what I want to do. You have to break that mentality, and you have to have people who come to the table clearly having put that aside. And what that says that if I'm committing, if my association is committing, I'm leaving it to the board of JAF to make sure that that money is used for the best purpose of the industry. So that distinction has to be made, and it is difficult. It's not. I think one of the benefits for us is Sri Lanka is a very small country. It's a closely knit community. There's a lot of mutual trust between people and so on. And obviously, when you're working with smaller numbers of people, this is easier than when you're working with an association that has, 25, 30, 50 different stakeholders. So I think again, that's where the size of it comes in. But I think the key takeaway is that you have to approach it with this attitude that says, yes, I'm going to do what I need to do financially because I can. And the beneficiaries of that, I might benefit, I might not. It might be an issue that doesn't affect me, but that doesn't matter because it's important in terms of growing the overall business.
Thank you, Johan. This very useful, and we have discussed that in the publication as well. That it is the key members who come together for the common cause. And you rightly said that it's the country first, then the sector second, the association third, and then the individual member fourth. So as long as the people come together with that kind of a thought, with that kind of a vision, we're looking at collective good as a main agenda. And you see your role as playing that important role for the growth of the sector. So you're not looking at it as an enterprise. And only with this kind of leaders bringing the association together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can achieve whatever the goal you set out yourself for. And I'm sure that once you have right program, right people to promote it, even finding sponsorship from various quarters is not difficult, because once people see that these are really inspired people and they are working for a much larger cause, then getting the support from other agencies is absolutely great.
No, absolutely. And this comes back to the issue of credibility. So it's credibility both externally and also internally within your own membership.
Please stay back with us. And Farooq had to another engagement, so he had to go, but we thank him again. And may I invite now Dr. Vandana Bandari, Professor of National Institute of Fashion Technology, my former colleague. We worked many years together at the Institute to talk about the important aspect of industry-institute collaboration and working together what we can achieve. And in the context of NIFT, how NIFT has, over a period of time, worked on building strong bonds with industry and other stakeholders. So over to you, Vandana, and it's great to have you in the session.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bheda, and thank you to Delphine, Clement also for hosting this session jointly. And it is really my great pleasure to talk about the Institute, where I've spent almost 30 years now working, and seeing how it grew from a very small organization to being omnipresent in the textile and apparel sector in India. As all of us know, this is an extremely important sector, and it plays an important role in the Indian economy, especially when it comes to employment. And according to the Ministry of Textiles, which looks after this sector in the Government of India, the industry employs over 45 million people directly and another 60 million people in allied sectors. And this includes a large number of women and rural populations also. And in the 80s, realizing the important role that this industry played in the country, and to promote exports, to create livelihoods for millions, the Government of India decided to establish a National Institute of International Standards that could develop human resources to help the sector play a greater role in the global fashion business. And today, when we look back at this decision, it was an incredible decision of the times, because it changed the way forward for the apparel and textile business in India. The institute, which I'll refer to as NIFT again and again, because that's the acronym we use, the National Institute of Fashion Technology, it was established in 1986. It was an autonomous body under the Ministry of Textiles, and it started in New Delhi, which is the capital of India, with 3 departments: the fashion design, apparel marketing and merchandising, and the garment manufacturing technology. And this aimed to serve the needs of the industry in a holistic manner. Today, it has 18 campuses, and I know my write-up says 17, but this year we started an 18th campus in different parts of India, and we have multiple courses across the institute. Over the years, the institute has played a pivotal role in the development of the fashion industry, and it is recognized as the leading fashion institute across the globe. NIFT alumni, as we've seen some of them talk today, have leadership roles in international brands, They work as retailers, they work in sourcing companies, they work in design houses, they serve as technology providers and manufacturing companies. Several alumni designers showcase their work across the world in different events and definitely have left an indelible mark on national and international markets. One of the things that I'm going to focus on today in this presentation, of course, NIFT is multifaceted and works across many different segments, but talking about how the Institute has had such a strong industry focus. And one of our core values has been the close collaboration with the industry. And before I do that, I'm just briefly going to talk about how the Institute was set up. I already talked about that it was set up under the aegis of the Ministry of Textiles. Industry involvement was a key focus for the Institute, and it was envisaged from an early stage that it was important for us to have a symbiotic relationship for the development and evolution of the Institute. The founders of the Institute encouraged leading professionals to join as members of faculty, and along with experienced academics, ensured the integration of contemporary business contexts, management practices, and strong industry linkages. And recently, the UGC, the University Grants Commission, which manages the universities in the country, has also introduced the concept of professor of practice, which we recognized very early on and brought in industry professionals into the Institute. Additionally, the Institute also encouraged faculty members to engage in consultancy services, and this enabled a continued relationship between the industry and integrated new perspectives and real-life case studies into the classroom, and brought the reality of the industry to the students. In addition to this, we run short-term training programs for industry professionals through international experts and through our own faculty members. And this really enables us to build such strong networking and long-term associations with industry houses and professionals. We were also a pioneer in envisioning and evolving the fashion business education in India, and over a period of time have grown and really are, wherever there is a need, we do a study of that region and then work to establish programs over there. The levels at which the Institute continues to interact with the industry is illustrated, and Dr. Bheda, if I can just have that diagram. Yeah, if everybody can see that. We have some great, at different levels, we work at, working with the industry. And I'm going to just go over each of them just to understand how we accomplish that, because it is quite a complicated process given the size of our organization, the reach and the depth and breadth of the organization. Just simply having so many different campuses which are still managed centrally, so to speak, is quite a challenge. I'm sorry, I think I switched off my video for a second there. And just to add a little bit more, up to about 2006, the Institute was giving diplomas and certificates, and after which we decided to apply for an Institute of Eminence status, which is given to institutes from the Indian Parliament, and with the President of India as a visitor. And we started to offer degree programs, and this was just seen as a progression of the time. So from being just an institute which was training people for the industry, it started to train more leaders, and we wanted to make the focus of education more academic. And today the institute offers Bachelor of Design, Bachelor of Technology programs. It offers a program in apparel production. We also offer programs in master's level programs, and also a large number of people are now doing their doctorate studies at NIFT, and a lot of practice-led PhDs where real life studies are done with the industry to study and to develop the doctoral thesis. So the students as well as the academicians have built connections with the industry through multiple interfaces, and we view industry engagement really as a learning process, and which provides an exposure to students in real life working environment, and this is integrated very much into the academic curriculum. It helps them to enhance their academic, personal and professional competencies, and the different institutional mechanisms that we have developed for this. I'll just go through them. The first one is that we have an industry and alumni unit that engages with the industry and alumni on a continuous basis under the overall leadership of the Dean of Academics at the Institute. And the unit is regionally active through its connection with the campuses which are spread across the country. So each of our campuses will then have a regional industry unit, and through that they make their regional connections. Additionally, each of the departments in the institute have an industry advisory committee, and the chairpersons of the department and the faculty, they engage with the industry advisory committee constantly to update our curriculum so that we can have a synergy between the academic input that is being given and the needs of the industry. We of course offer certificate and continuing education programs which help to upskill the people who are already working in the industry and to skill new people. And recently we are looking at a project where we will do large scale skilling of personnel for the apparel and textile industry, and that is something which we are working on at this stage. The NIFT faculty also stays abreast of the latest developments through provisions such as the faculty industry attachment, which I must say is an extremely valuable learning component for faculty, because if you just keep working in the classroom, you get distant from what is happening in the industry. But through this FIA, we actually go to the industry and work there for 2 to 3 months and get a real feel of what is happening. Also to visits to trade shows, to conferences, seminars nationally and internationally. And of course, we take up consultancy and sponsor projects with the industry individually or along with students. Our students additionally do internship programs, which can range from 6 weeks to 2 months to up to 3 months. And also students in their final semester, most of the students, I would say about 96% of the students pursue what is called a graduation project, where they finish their final semester in the industry. So for those of you who are not in this country, I cannot tell you what a wonderful boon it is to have such a great flourishing industry at our doorstep, where our students can go and interact and actually work with the industry so closely to understand the theoretical content that is given to the students in the classroom. I have to say the COVID-19 pandemic made us realize how fortunate we were, because from the time it took for lockdown to happen and the time it took us to start online classes, there was no time lag. We were so ready. We had all the IT infrastructure. The faculty had the know-how. The students were up for it, and it was just very easy transition into online teaching. And the other great advantage we have is that we invite people from the industry, and this has been built into the curriculum right from day one. And wherever we feel that there is an expertise needed, And even sometimes if we feel that we have the expertise, just to get the current inputs, we do invite current faculty from industry to come and help us to stay up to date, and just have ready students which can meet the requirements of the garment and textile industry. Recently, we have also got industry-sponsored chairs, and some of the faculty are doing some wonderful work in areas of Industry 4.0 and in fashion retail. And of course, faculty continue to play the role of adding to research-based publications on themes related to improving the competitiveness of the industry. So all in all, I would really say that NIFT has played a key role in helping the industry to grow to its current stature with India, having capacities in pretty much every area of the fashion value chain. NIFT alumni, of whom we are extremely proud, have been instrumental in development of numerous fashion brands and have contributed to the growth of the fashion retail industry. And now, 36 years in the business, the institute has leading, as you know, at the CEOs of most leading companies would be a NIFT alumni. And it is so easy for us to continue with the industry connect because all alumni want to give back to their alma mater. So the important lessons that we've really learned from this over a period of time is, of course, keeping this connect with our alumni, because we don't have to do anything else. We just have to keep the alumni database, and all of them give back to us. But along with that, we have to be more ready to keep our curriculum close to the industry needs, and we need to have systems in place where we can be more agile, so that we can, because the industry demands move so fast, we have to be very agile to meet those needs. Also, one of the things we have started to do is, since purchasing new machinery, new software, etc., is always hard for an institute, and we can't do it as fast as the needs of the industry change. We try to cover some of these gaps when the students are working in the industry through the internships or through industry visits. Also, sometimes when our campuses are not close to the industry, it's like saying, the mountain has to come down. So we go down to the industry and make sure that the students actually interact with the industry. So all in all, I really feel that the institute has done wonderfully to connect with the industry. Of course, there's always more that we can do, but we live and learn, and we continue to work on this. Thank you so much.
Rajesh, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
I was unmuting myself on my laptop. Then I realized I'm on phone on Zoom. So I said, even in a virtual world, I would like to physically clap for Dr. Vandana, my colleague at NIFT on time, to have really explained how a national institute with 17 campuses works closely with various stakeholders, especially while interacting with the industry. And as you rightly said, that the founders of the institute from day one kept that principle in focus, that it's an institute for the industry, is the institute that will shape or in a way facilitate the future of the industry. And that's what differentiates it from a typical academic institution sometimes, which may do a lot of inbreeding. So with that, we have some time for Q&A. We had some questions posed by the audience, which were answered by the panelists already. But if there are any questions for either Dr. Vandana or Johan, then feel free to ask them at this stage.
I can see that there's a hand raised.
And we can try to give the person a chance.
Yeah, to at least listen to one voice from the audience. Syed Mashmoom, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Syed, you can open your mic.
Okay. And Imani, if you can read out the question in the Q&A, that would be nice. Then we can see if any of our panelists can answer.
Yeah. So we do have a question on the D2C will be extending outside India.
Yes, of course, D2C, there is opportunity for growth of D2C in all parts of the world. And in fact, it was briefly mentioned by Shreya that we have actually seen D2C happening during the pandemic time. Some of our ITCs, Menatex project companies ventured into D2C when the physical world was kind of shut, and launched either medical textiles or protective masks, and they directly sold to the customers, and some of them actually successfully launched brands. In fact, I know of a couple of companies in Bangladesh as well who are traditionally garment exporters, and they did over a period of time or in last couple of years have launched their brands, but they also did D2C as well. So yes, D2C is a global phenomena, and it shall definitely is growing, and it shall also grow in the countries where it's not a phenomena as of now, but there is a fair amount of opportunity for growth there.
Thank you, Rajesh. We had also two other questions, but has been answered by Mr. Baid himself. So if you are still interested, you can look in the Q&A as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for the audience? Any questions for Johan or Professor Vandana? I have maybe one question for Professor Vandana. That when we look at many educational institutions, we find that typically the teachers are happy being inside the institution and interacting within the academic community. Industry interaction or initiatives does require one to move out of comfort zone and actually venture out. So for some of maybe academics who are listening to us from our different countries, what would you say is a critical factor to motivate the teachers to venture out and be in live contact with the industry, and you can say in a way go out of comfort zone? What are your thoughts? How should an institution, a young institution with limited resources, also try to manage this?
Sorry, I was on mute. When we make it part of our curriculum, it just forces faculty to get out of their comfort zone, because if I have to make sure that 35 of my students have to be placed in the industry every year, twice a year in fact, and I don't have any contacts in the industry, then I cut a very sorry figure. I think that's the first motivating factor for a faculty, that you want to be able to pick up the phone and say, I've got these 6 people who will take you in right away for your internships or for your graduation projects. That's one of the things. I think the other thing is that and that sort of sets the culture in an organization, and it's extremely important to build that culture. Also, there has to be a want, I think, from within, to say, I want to be on top of my game. So if things are changing so fast, there are no books published on it, if I don't go to the trade fairs, if I don't go to the industry, then I'm going to be a dinosaur very quickly. So you have to be on top of the game. You just have to be connected to the industry. And sometimes, you know, when faculty join in, they don't quite get it so quickly, but it doesn't take them long to understand that they need to be, it's not enough just to teach the theory and to work in the labs and to work, you know, do the practical work. What is happening in the now is important to know also. Yeah. So
wonderful.
I think,
thank you.
yeah, multi-pronged approach. I think motivation is always a critical thing. Yeah, that's that's a hard one.
Thank you, Dr. Vardhan. Johan, if you're still with us, can you throw some light on in terms of how does JAF plays a role in bringing the academic institutions or training institutions in Sri Lanka closer to the requirements of the industry in Sri Lanka?
So a couple of ways, Rajesh. So one is there are two, so we have very close links with the local university. So there's the state system and there's the private system. So in the state system, we have the university, and they run a course, and we work very closely with them in terms of course design, in terms of giving them ideas. So we will say to them, this is an area you need to look at. We also give them a lot of assistance in terms of, you know, machinery, stuff like that. And then we work with them to offer placements. So if you're on the degree or the diploma, you will always have a placement within the industry. And we found that to be exceedingly useful because you know, you get people coming in within their curriculum to come and spend time with you. You get to kind of pick the best of the brains from those guys and girls, get an opportunity to see what it's like to work in industry. Then they go in, finish their degree or their diploma, and quite often 9 times out of 10, they will go back into the company where they did the placement.
Wonderful.
We also have something called the Sri Lanka Institute of Textile and Apparel, which is a government organization set up purely for training of textile apparel. And JAF actually has 2 seats on the board of that organization. So we have a direct impact. And again, we give input, obviously not in the kind of the admin of it, but in terms of the programs, in terms of assistance with placements and stuff like that. We also have a number of private institutions who offer various not degrees, but, you know, diplomas and courses. And again, we have a very close rapport with them. We partner with them on programs. We work on, I mean, there's some of them are doing some fantastic work on sustainability, circularity. So we coordinate, we work with them. We help to kind of support them in any way. So it's just making sure there's a very close link with what's going on. And I think just that ability to feed in and say, look, guys, these are important topics. Can you start having a think about this, how you might deal with this? So yeah, it's maintaining those links. And as I say, again, in Sri Lanka, it's a smaller world. It's a closer community. It's very much easier to do this. I don't envy the role that Vandana has in terms of trying to kind of like reach across such a large area. But yeah, it's maintaining those close links.
Thank you, Johan. That's really useful. When I seen Sri Lankan industry from close quarters, I was there a month back or so. And again, to share with our audience, Roshan, who presented the first case, is a NIFT alumni and a graduate of our Apparel Marketing and Merchandising program, who set up subsequently manufacturing base and then his brand. He talked about his brand being created or brand name identified through a student competition at NIFT. So that also gives an idea about how the industry and institute work very closely on a variety of fronts where there's always constant interaction. So with that, it's great that we've had excellent initial session with insights on the development of brands, how the manufacturing companies can look at creation of their own brands, opportunities in the D2C, so well explained by Shreya Singh. Of course, it was a pleasure to have the detailed presentation about the initiatives of BGMEA on a variety of fronts and how the industry has made progress and the role played by the industry association. Of course, the testimony or insights given by Johan on how JAF plays its role for guiding and supporting the industry and being the voice of the industry, policymakers, and the global stakeholders are very useful. And of course, more importantly, the last point being brought out by Professor Vandana Bhandari in terms of how institutions and industry can work together for a greater synergy, for creating future leaders who eventually can actually play the role of leaders in time to come. And that's where now, whenever I travel anywhere internationally in the fashion business, there's some Niftian sitting in an office, and either you go to a brand or a sourcing company, it's always pleasure to see that. If you look at our overall publication and the insights from that publication, and if I can have Iman, the second last slide, which is the overall learning from the publication, few very interesting facts have come out from the case studies. One is you name any area, starting from product development to manufacturing to quality. Just the previous slide. Go back to previous slide. Yeah. So there's an immense scope of improvement in every domain of this industry. And what is important is that if these improvement initiatives are taken, then the payback period is quite good. Some of those are as small as 3 months to 12 months. In majority of the case studies show that kind of payback period, which means if you are interested for improvement, then these are not very difficult ideas to implement. What is more important, what made these improvements possible was the top management commitment, because culture flows from top. The way you define the culture and the others will follow. That is important. Making financial investments is not really the major challenge, but preparing the organization, preparing the team for improvement is very, very important. And finding right guide or mentor sometimes is important. And there are many in the industry. You need to reach out to them, and they'll be more than happy to help you, guide you, but making those connections is important. Process of identifying, incorporating, and improving our practices should never stop. It's a continuous improvement journey. And by sharing good practices, which our contributors have done, we can multiply the inventory of good practices, what we have with us. So those were our learning from this publication, working with putting together 33 case studies, 28 good practices from across the globe. I would really like to thank all the contributors, and of course, like to thank all the participants and our valued speakers for today. Over to you, Delphine. We are just in time to conclude our event of today.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. And again, thank you so much for all our speakers for having taken the time to share your great experience. We hope that it will and it inspire industry stakeholders across the world to move forward, and to improve their business and their contribution to the industry. It's nice sometimes to share and exchange, not seeing each other as competitors, but just improving the industry at a global scale. Well, we're so good with timing. It's fantastic. So just one last minute, just again sharing with you the link to our Global Textile Academy. It's a platform that is aiming at sort of compiling as a repository of all the documents, the training materials, the videos, articles, everything that ITC in joint collaboration with global experts produce for the industry, whether on fibers, cotton, textile, and apparel. We put it there on this platform, and it's a living platform. So it's we feed it with all sorts of tools, and it's for you. And please visit it. There will be also a lot of e-learnings, courses on it. And it's meant to be a public good. So we're also keen on hearing your feedback, comments, suggestions, potential partnership also to nurture and to create. And so yeah, please visit it, and we welcome any feedback. So thank you again for joining. The video will be uploaded anyway on the Academy, so one more reason to visit it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
again. Merci beaucoup. Shukran, spasiba.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.